Hi all, welcome to the series of interview questions front end every day. Today we will be seeing yet another important question in JavaScript. So it is a very simple question. So you can expect this question greatly in your interview because so the question is whether JavaScript is an object-oriented language. So you know Java is completely object oriented because it is all classes. You can't write anything without classes. And C++ is partially object oriented because you can write some things without classes. So it is said to be completely not partially object oriented. In JavaScript, if you take, do you have classes? That's the first question. Okay. In Java and all, if you take inheritance, how it happens, a class A inherits class B. But in JavaScript, is it likewise? So if you take JavaScript, though in ESX you might find classes, but those all are syntactic sugar. Uh, If you see how it gets converted, still it uses the same function, and the inheritance happens like a prototype based. Okay, what you see outside is just for development, for the developer to find it easy. Okay, but under the hood, if you see, it is still the same old way of doing the functions you do and new functions, and then you do a prototype based inheritance. So JavaScript does not have classes. So you have to understand that if this interview question is asked, you have to say like it is JavaScript is an object-based language based on prototype. It is not class-based object-oriented language. It is prototype-based object-oriented language. Correct? Because you do not have classes, okay? And for the inheritance to happen, and other the great thing you have to understand with JavaScript is if you take Java, C++, it is like class inheriting another class. But if you take in case of JavaScript, it is object inheriting another object. So it is all object based. JavaScript is completely object based, and for inheritance also it is prototype based. So your answer should be like it is prototype based object oriented language. It is not class based object oriented language. Okay, and it is not completely object oriented because it does not have classes and does not follow the oops principle strictly. Okay, just before that I just will show you an example how the inheritance happens in a prototype based. Okay, so let me create a child. Okay, see, let it keep it as caps because it is a constructor. Okay, this function I'm going to use it for creating an object. So I will have a variable called child equal to child. Okay, okay. Now I have another function. Okay, let me have it as parent. Here I will create a variable called parent. Okay. Sorry, I will make it caps. Okay. Now I will create the objects for these two objects. Like child object equal to new child. Okay, made sense, I believe. And similarly, I will create a parent object, new parent. Okay, Now, if I want the child object to inherit from the parent object, what you have to do? Okay, maybe the child object I wanted to inherit this dot parent from the parent. So normally in Java and all, you will have a class child, class parent, and class child will extends parent so that it will be able to use the instance variable of the parent. But in case of JavaScript, if you want to inherit, what you have to do is you have to use prototype. So that's why it is called prototype based. Okay, this is how you can inherit in JavaScript. You have to put, see here, child object dot proto. I have to set it to parent object. Now the child object, I have created a link from child object to parent object. Now you can see what I told. It in JavaScript is always object inheriting another object. Okay, it is not class based, it is prototype based. Now the child object can directly use the parent variable since it has a link is created. We have created a prototypical link from the child object to the parent object, so it will be able to access the parent instance variable parent. You can see. So just understand, if this interview question is asked, you have to prove that you have to tell that it is prototype based object oriented language. It is not class based object oriented language, and it is not completely object oriented, and since it does not have class as in the case of other native languages like Java, C++, it is, and it does not strictly follow OOPS principle, though it is all possible, but it is, yeah, object inheriting another object. It is not class. That's what I said. Prototype based. Okay. The object gets inherited through prototype. Okay. Hope this question is clear. Thank you guys.